Hey y'all, it's the Country Notary. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great week in business as well. As always, y'all, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Please hit the subscribe button. Y'all help my channel grow. I'm gonna keep making these videos until somebody out there takes notice. There's so much information that I've been able to research, read on, put together over the past couple of months regarding growing my business, not my notary business, not my loan signing agent business, but growing my LLC in general. And I want to share it with you guys because there's ways to make money in this economy. And I've actually been a student of YouTube education, my YouTube University education. And again, if you're watching this video, you're probably doing the same thing. So please subscribe to my channel, guys. Help me move up on the YouTube algorithm and make more videos and help people realize the information that they're missing out on if they're not subscribing to the Country Notary. Thank you. Okay, I had to get that rant out. For those 12 people that have been liking my channel, liking my post, do you need something from the gas station? Okay? Speaking of gas, I'm driving from Houston on my way back home today from my 6-week hair appointment. I always typically do a driving video on this particular trip because it's an hour-and-a-half long trip and have a lot on my mind and a lot to share. About 2 weeks ago, I did a video, I think I called it 2 New Deals. If you go back and scroll through the last few videos, you'll see it. 2 New Deals. I was driving home from an appointment a couple of weeks ago, saw a yard sign, a bandit sign. Really wasn't a bandit sign. It was basically a for sale by owner sign, owner financing, something to that effect. I texted the phone number on the sign, attempting to offer them a house that I had found from a for sale by owner person. Attempted to see if the person who put those signs out was interested in buying this house. I'm wholesaling real estate. By the way, again, scroll back through a couple of videos, you'll see my video on teaching myself to wholesale in 30 days and wholesale a house in 30 days. It didn't quite happen. And if I had known the timeline when I first made the video, I would have realized you can't exactly wholesale a whole house in 30 days. You can acquire a house in a couple of days, but the negotiations and the paperwork, finding the contract, finding an end buyer, getting to title, all of that takes longer than 30 days. So now realistically, I know that. However, I did a video on teaching myself to wholesale in 30 days, and I didn't obviously hit the 30-day deadline, but I did teach myself to wholesale. And along with the help of my daughter, who's an agent as well as an investor like myself, she's getting into investing. We both started a second LLC for real estate investing. So I have 2 now, my Mobile Notary LLC as well as my new LLC for my real estate investing business, Real Country Properties LLC, country with a K. Goes along with the Country Notary. Branding, please also follow me on Instagram if you haven't already done so, where I'm also posting and updating my journey on real estate investing, wholesaling, as well as funding opportunities for real estate investors, and as well as funding agents. The company that I've partnered with is also looking for funding agents. So if you're a mobile notary loan signing agent watching this video, scroll into the description of this video and click on the link where it talks about deed funding, the deed funding link. And if you're like myself, interested in real estate transactions, real estate documents, closing process, potentially wanting to become a real estate investor yourself, interested in wholesaling, just curious about real estate in general, becoming a deed funding agent is something that you might consider doing. It pays on a net 30 basis, similar to loan closings. No documents to print, which is a huge deal, and working from the comfort of your home computer. So again, scroll into the description of this video and click on the deed funding link, and myself or one of our partners will get back to you. I am an agent now, and this opportunity basically pays a profit based on the sales price of the house, the property that is being funded. So whole nother story, whole nother video. So with the help of my daughter, like I said, as well as a mentor that connected with me from a Facebook group, I was actually able to learn most of the steps of the wholesaling business system and put those steps into action. And after I made that video a couple of weeks ago, like I said, I landed 2 new deals, and those 2 deals are under contract. It's taken me a little while to make this follow-up video because of delays. I wouldn't say delays, because of the timeline of events that it takes to move, to each step. And I'm actually one of those people that's leery about making a video and publishing a video on a topic until I've actually accomplished that particular step, because I'm always concerned about spooking myself or jinxing myself. However, if I don't make this video now, I'll forget the things that I've experienced, and part of obviously vlogging is to share your experiences with the subscribers. So I'm going to make this video, and God bless me, knocking on the wood grain steering wheel, that we get to close. Our 2 deals that we have under contract are scheduled to close on August 19th, which is about still 3 weeks and a few days away. So here we are. Try to go back and give you guys a little timeline of what happened. Just to recap, driving home from an appointment, actually a notary appointment, called the phone number on the yard sign. I texted the phone number on the yard sign. I presented the first deal that I had under contract to this, assuming this was an investor whose phone number was on the yard signs, and hoping just to reach out to as many cash buyers, in buyers that I could, while I, in the first few days of having that house under contract. And immediately afterwards, that phone number texted me back, I am getting out of the business, and proceeded to send me a list of, I think, 10 properties that he was selling. And my eyes just lit up, because at that time I was having difficulties finding motivated sellers, finding people that owned properties that were attempting to sell those properties off market for sale by owner. And of course I was new and I didn't have a strategy of finding these properties. It was pretty much just hit and miss. I think I found that first property that I had under contract on a Facebook marketplace post, and she eventually fell out of contract. So I was elated, of course. 10 possible deals that I could hopefully lock up and close, and then find an end buyer to buy those, was a huge moment for me. And so I confirmed with this phone number that he was actually the owner of these properties, making sure that, texted several times to make sure it wasn't some type of scam. And he gave me the addresses, he gave me the lockbox codes on several of the houses. 2 of them are tenant occupied, and he told me, feel free to go and take a look at all of the ones that had lockboxes or that were open. Give him some feedback, make him an offer. He even texted me his title company's name, address, and phone number, email address as well, because that's how motivated he was to sell these properties. So I went out and looked at all the properties that were either open and or had lockboxes on them, took pictures, made some notes, met with that seller a couple of weeks later. We went and walked in the interiors of the 2 properties that were tenant occupied. Those were occupied by tenants under leases, And as it turns out, of the eight properties that I was interested in, one was not credible at all, not something that I could even attempt to market to an end buyer. It was, in pretty sad condition, as well as it was next to another house where the family had about 28 dogs in the backyard just barking away and on chains. And I just thought to myself, who would want to deal with this in a real remote part of town on a dark street with vines and trees growing all over? It was just crazy. So I kind of dismissed that one. And the second one was a big commercial building that had an odd layout and lots of storage, and again, not something that I could market confidently. I was new myself, so I kind of dismissed those two properties. And of the remainder of those, the two tenant occupied properties seemed like the best strategy to start. And I was a little concerned when he realized that I was a investor / wholesaler, and I told him, yes, we try to buy properties when they fit our budget, but at the same time, if they don't, we will find an end buyer. He was a very savvy investor himself, very experienced. He had worked with wholesalers before. He was leery about allowing me to get all 8 properties under contract because he had been burned before by a wholesaler that promised to sell houses for him in another situation, and got to the end of the contract, got an extension, and was unable to sell one house. So he was kind of leery about that. And not to be defeated, took a deep breath, put on my country smile, and I came back with a proposal. Mr. Seller, if you would allow me to get the 2 houses under contract with the tenants, which I hadn't done before. I actually didn't even know if there were buyers out there that wanted rental properties with tenants. I was new. I hadn't done any research on that, but I had planned on immediately going back to the Facebook groups and scrolling through to see what the messaging and dialogue was between sellers and buyers as it related to tenant-owned properties. I thought that was a good start. They were in my area. They were actually decent structures that didn't need a lot of repairs, and I had done my research, ran my numbers already. So when me and Mr. Seller got to that part of the conversation, he agreed, and I asked him, what are you thinking price-wise? And he threw out his number, and lo and behold, that number was almost on point with what I had written down. 2 properties, both of them 3-bedroom, 1-bath properties, built in the late 1960s. Wood frame. We call them wood frame houses down here. Siding houses. They both painted yellow for some reason. I guess that was his color scheme. And he threw out his number, $50,000 for each property, and I couldn't believe it because, again, that was the number I had written down, almost on the mark for both of them. Been having a little trouble with my gums on my braces. I don't know what's going on there. So elated. I was absolutely elated. And then, of course, I had to, jump into action and figure out how to move these 2 properties to a cash buyer. Wholesaling, again, is the process of acquiring discounted properties, distressed properties, off-market properties, for sale by owner properties at a discount because of their distressed condition, or because of the seller's urgency to move those properties quickly, because the cash buyers will come in and they're able to get under contract and get funding or loans more quickly and close more quickly, and basically cuts down the time it normally would take for a person to go to their mortgage lender, get approved inspections, appraisals, etc. During a cash buy deal, most of those steps are eliminated, and the closing process is a lot more a lot quicker. So that's what I've learned so far, personal experience. So we were great. We had breakfast. I actually paid. I was balling, whipped out my business my business checking debit card. I insisted to pay for that $16 breakfast with coffee, and we had a really good long conversation. He's a true businessman. Really good long conversation, and through that dialogue, just being myself and being natural. Just we had a great organic conversation. Traffic is a little weird right now. There's some incident on the highway. People driving crazy. We were able to bond over these houses, and my goal is also, after these 2 houses close and they're sold, he and I can sit back down and talk about the next 2 or 3. I already have a process going and a plan for those. So that's where we are. Got home, talked to my daughter, did some more research. I already had pictures of the houses, packaged them together, and early July, I think it was the first week of July, around the 7th of July, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, slightly after, maybe earlier that week. The 4th of July was a Monday. So maybe that Tuesday, the 5th, I took my time, and I'm a member at that time. I was a member of 29 Facebook groups that all deal with wholesaling, real estate investing, for sale by owner houses, as well as cash buyer houses, REI, real estate investing, etc. And I took the time and posted my 2 slideshows of pictures on all 29 groups with the descriptions, that property, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, the square footage, year built, other features of the houses, tenant occupied, and I titled them all add to your investment portfolio, add to your rental portfolio, something like that. It took me about an hour to post, maybe not quite an hour, to post all of the groups, and went to bed. And that was on a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And a couple of days later, I received a few emails. I always include my email. I don't respond as quickly to the Facebook post because you'll get a DM or a message in Messenger. I always include my email address, hoping that they'll email me. That also allows me to save email addresses for future use. For building an email address list of cash buyers is critical for future use. When I get properties, I can email that group out and save directly to that group because they've shown interest in the past. So a buyer's list is what that's called. And by the way, guys, I learned all this on YouTube. If you're watching YouTube right now, you've made a good decision. As you're watching YouTube right now, obviously you're watching it, you made a good decision, because YouTube is packed with information, packed with education, not just entertainment. And again, I like to throw my shouts out to all the YouTubers that I've followed: Brent Daniels, Flipman. I even have drawn the blank right now. I'm thinking of some of the Pace Morby, some of the other Bigger Pockets podcasts, Social Proof, podcasts that I've watched on a daily, hourly basis, and I've learned, again, a tremendous amount of information and education and technical information that's allowed me to literally get out here in these investing streets, make offers on houses, learn how to talk and negotiate with total strangers, and communicate as a business person. And again, all in with the goal of adding additional streams of income to my business, adding revenue and cash flow to my business, as well as learning how to take this income when these houses close, take this income and reinvest it into future real estate investments through either purchasing more properties or 1031 exchanges, which is a whole nother story. And I'm also a member of another group, SALT Equity Group, SALT, which is led by Terica Smith, and I hope I didn't say your last name wrong, Terica, because I'm driving and I'm not really thinking, I'm not looking at anything specifically, who I also saw her first interview on the Social Proof podcast, which is also on YouTube and other streaming services. And I've learned quite a bit from Terica. She is a real estate developer in Louisiana. I'm a member of her group. Her group, Salt Equity Group, hosts two monthly member calls, the second and fourth Wednesday of every month. If you're looking to become a member of an awesome community, Salt Equity, again, throwing out all types of information and education to their members on a twice monthly basis, and we pay a very small annual fee to be part of that group. A very small annual fee to be part of that group. I think it's $110. Very well worth it, annual fee. So we're in the worst traffic jam since Hurricane Harvey, but that's a whole nother story. Guess I'll just keep doing videos while I'm driving. Started receiving responses on my Facebook post, and maybe I think I received 3 or 4 responses, which normally, you know, which what I normally would have done at that point, after messaging back and forth with these 4 people, if they weren't interested, I would have gone back to the Facebook group and reposted them, because as you know, those posts would eventually age out and move to the bottom of the everybody's stream. However, before I even had the chance to do that, or the reason to do that, one particular person emailed me multiple times. And actually, initially, and I hope he's not watching, initially I thought he may have been a scammer. His profile picture was kind of obscure looking. It was kind of blurry, and he was looking up into the distance. His questions were very concise, but very frequent. He had a lot of questions, a lot of very short questions, but a lot of them. And when I would answer one email, he would respond back with another email with about 4 more questions. I'd answer those 4. He'd respond back with another question, and some of them were in grave detail, where I had to constantly keep emailing back the seller's property manager, his administrative assistant, asking questions. So she and I have never spoken on the phone. We have texted. We have texted probably 80 times since I first contacted them. Quite amazing. And as it turned out, so 2 days later, this particular person started messaging me. I went out of town for the weekend to visit, the following week, to visit my daughter and her family, my family. 3 days later, we ended up, we got to the point where he said, he asked a question about the tenants, their timeliness on paying rent. He was asking about whether those properties were part of the flood zone, and he would get with his partner to do more research, and they would get back to me on Monday, which would have been the first Monday of my weekend trip. And if everything looked good, he would make an offer. And I was excited. This would have been my actual second deal, but my first deal that, you know, was more excited about closing, because he was doing all of the follow-up and the questions and pursuing. He seemed very interested. So on Monday, I received an email from this cash buyer. We'll call him Mr. Cash Buyer, Mr. Investor. And I was assuming he would ask more questions about the flood zone and, you know, what they found out in their research. Now, mind you, he did not have the address of the properties. I had only given him the general location of the properties. And he happened to have grown up in the same town that I grew up in. Maybe that's what caught his attention on the post on Facebook. He doesn't live in our town anymore. He lives in the Lake Jackson area, which is a suburb of Houston. He's had invested in properties before. He and his wife owned, I think he said, 5 investment properties currently, and he understood that they were tenant occupied. The pictures of the properties, they aren't great. They don't photograph well, to say the least. But he was interested. He basically understood the neighborhood, understood the, you know, rental community in that neighborhood, and he was still interested. So on Monday, he emailed me, clicking on the email, assuming that he would be giving me some feedback on the flood areas, or whether those areas were part of the flood, previously flooded during Harvey. I just talked about Harvey a moment ago, Hurricane Harvey. And he basically replied, again, another very short 1 or 2 sentence email. I am very interested in the properties. Your number, and your number is a good number. I'm not gonna talk about my number till we close, guys, because I don't want to put any stress on our closing. your number's a good number. We're going to offer you that full price. And I was flabbergasted. I was actually flabbergasted. We had gotten to the point where I had met an end buyer on a Facebook group who contacted me back via email after several days of emailing back and forth, and texting back and forth with the seller's property manager. We came to an agreement, and he accepted the he made an offer for full price of what we were asking for. So again, if you hadn't been following this whole thing, I got the seller under contract for price A. He agreed. He threw out his number first. He threw out his number on both properties, which was right on point with the number that I was expecting to offer anyway, give or take. Actually, I was a little lower on one house, but it was only $2,000 lower, so I was willing to come up and meet his number because I was trying to build a relationship with this seller in order to get the other 8 properties at some point and be able to wholesale those as well. I then posted and published those houses on these 29 Facebook groups at a higher number, obviously, because the goal is to make a profit. Not only at a higher number, assuming that someone's going to make an offer, the assumption is that they're going to try to negotiate your number down. So if you know, as negotiations work, you want to put a number out there that's realistic, but also high enough that if you find some end buyers, if I had found a cash buyer and they attempted to negotiate my number down, I still would have made a comfortable profit. Basically, we're in business. The goal is to make as much of a profit as you can. Otherwise, what's the point of being what's the point of being in business if you're not trying to make the highest profit that you can? And as it turns out, with this particular buyer, he thought the numbers were good, which was really just a shot in the dark, and they weren't. I used a number of data sources to put my I use a number of data sources. I'm sorry, I'm always distracted. I use a number of data sources before I listed the number that I was looking for on these 2 properties. And all of the numbers told me that this was a good number, a good price to post and publish these houses at. And either way, again, as the wholesaler, I would make a profit. And the end buyer, if he chose to keep renting those properties out monthly and or sell them at some point, he could still make a profit as well, because there was quite a bit of margin between the market value of those 2 properties, the price that I published, as well as between the price that me and the seller agreed upon. So the seller's going to make his money, and I'm going to make my profit, and the end buyer will eventually be able to make a profit if he chooses to sell those properties. If not, he'd have monthly cash flow, as I would if I had chosen to keep the properties and collect the rents on those properties. So that's where we stood, and that was on a Monday about 2 weeks ago. And the last 2 weeks basically have been filled with messages back and forth regarding the contracts. We waited for about a week for the seller's administrative assistant to send us a contract. She was either busy or didn't understand how to write a wholesaling contract. We did receive the contract. It had some errors. My daughter and I reviewed it, sent it back for corrections. Actually, my daughter corrected it and sent it back out to him. The corrections were made. We both signed it and sent it to the title company that had already titled the contract between me and the seller. So we're under contract. We are officially under contract. As I mentioned, my buyer, I'm going to call him my buyer now, because he actually asked me a couple of days ago if I had any other properties for sale in my area. And I emailed him and asked him what his criteria was, what he'd be looking for. He told me. I said, yes, I think I could assist. I'm looking at a couple of properties right now that meets your criteria, and I have a couple on the back burner as well. So we'll be in touch after this contract moves along a little further. So it became a really winning situation, again, all of which was from driving along and texting a number on a yard sign. I didn't even call the number. I texted the number on the yard sign. And we will have 2 properties closing on August 19th. My first wholesale deal, August 19th, and we're going to make a pretty good chunk of change on these 2 properties. I'm not as concerned about the contract falling through at this point. We've moved along quite nicely. This traffic is just horrendous. We moved along quite nicely. I also facilitated and negotiated over the last couple of days for the end buyer's inspector to come out and inspect the 2 properties between this was somewhat of an ordeal. The seller is out of town. He's on vacation, and he's, I think, with his mom who's elderly, and I think he's very busy. I had been texting his administrative assistant, texting him to try to arrange for him to contact the 2 tenants to arrange a date and time for these inspections, which had to be on the same day and time for some reason. Now as I think about it, it didn't have to be on the same day and time, but that's another story. I assumed the buyer was going to come to town himself and accompany the inspectors on the 2 properties so that he could walk through and see them himself. So everything was originally planned for it all to take place early morning on a Saturday and a little bit later Saturday morning so that it could all take place on the same day. So coordinating that between the seller, his administrative assistant, the 2 tenants, the end buyer, and the inspection company, as you can imagine, was somewhat of a circus act. And then after a couple of days of multiple texts and phone calls, I miraculously got the appointment set exactly as the end buyer had asked, 8:30 in the morning on Saturday and 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, which would have given the inspector plenty of time to inspect property A, drive to property B, inspect property B, and be gone. And trust me, the tenants, they're a little ornery. They weren't very happy about this. They weren't happy the day we walked through the first time with the seller. For some reason, they're just not happy tenants, I guess. And I'm concerned that they were gonna be offensive to the point where the end buyer would be offended and maybe get leery about having them as tenants. Just a lot going on, and being the middleman in a transaction that I had no experience in. Got all that confirmed. Right before I send out the confirmation text to everybody, my buyer texts me back and says, "Hey, do you know any inspectors in your town, in Beaumont? Do you know any inspectors?" My inspector, because of all the delays in getting this booked, my inspector has a schedule conflict. I'm like, really? Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, I'm dealing with a lot of busy people, angry people, and you know, business is business. People have conflicts, and I thought I had just did something miraculous. If these inspections happen, which the properties are pretty solid, they're not pretty properties, but they're solid. I'm pretty sure they'll do well on the inspections. These inspections take place, we are one step further closer to closing. So now we have a schedule conflict. I had never gotten a house inspected. The house I live in was inherited from my parents. It was built 50 years ago. I had a new house built in Fort Worth when I lived in the Fort Worth area. It was already built brand new from the ground, so it didn't need no inspection. Actually, when I sold that house, we did have to call an inspector out, but I had never had to do it. The person who bought the house did that. So I'm like, okay. I almost texted him back and I'm like, dude, after all of what? After all you just put me through, you want me to get the inspections booked now? So before I did that, kept my calm, went to Google, looked up local inspectors, called 3 people. First one was busy. Second one didn't answer his phone. Third one talked to on the phone. Yes, first one was busy. Second one didn't answer. No answer. Third guy, I talked on the phone. He was booked. He actually had talked to my buyer, and he was the one that was originally booked that now had a schedule conflict because the buyer took too long to get back to him. However, in our phone call, again, using that good old country charm, in our phone call, I was able to ask him, do you have anybody that you can refer to me? I just asked one more question. I talked about this in one of my notary videos way back when. Just asking that next probing question. that next probing question, do you have anyone you can refer us to? Because we pretty desperate right now. And he laughed and he referred me to a guy. Called the guy, very nice, very professional, had a few questions. And here's something that I've learned with negotiating and just talking to people in general in business. Once they start talking and asking questions, that's when you know you got them. He asked a few questions, that's when you know they're interested. And as it turns out, he was available on Saturday for the inspections. Hallelujah. He was available for the inspection. So I got his information, gave him the dates and times, of course, the property addresses, and told him I would follow up with a text. I texted him the end buyer's name and number, and I also texted the end buyer this inspector's name and number, let him know that we were confirmed, the times were confirmed, and please let me know, yes, if you guys agree, because I'm sure that still had to agree to the price. And I hadn't heard from him later on that day. I said, hello, are we still confirmed from Saturday? Oh, yes, we are confirmed for Saturday. Thank you very much. Thank you. He was actually very elated that I was able to find this inspector. The inspections are tomorrow morning. This video is long on purpose, guys. I'm not going to apologize for that. The inspections are tomorrow morning, 8:30 and 11. I will be accompanying the inspectors on the appointments because I promised the tenants I'd do so. They had already met me once earlier when I accompanied the seller on the walkthroughs, and just wanted to make sure they were comfortable and that they answered the door and let us in and get those inspections in the books so that we can move on and be cleared to close. And guys, when I tell you this has been quite an experience, I have learned so much. This video, even though it's just me talking and rambling as I'm driving, if you have really listened to this video, it has been power-packed with information, just through dialogue, through negotiation, through effective communications. I have been able to locate, get under contract, assign the contract to another buyer, facilitate a few items for him, and within 3 weeks, my daughter and I will come up on some thousands of dollars. Okay, so I did leave out a few steps, which I would have to say for maybe a separate set of videos. I had never personally written a real estate contract. I don't think I'd ever made an offer on a piece of real estate except the house that the house that I bought when I got divorced. And basically I was working with a real estate agent, so they did everything for me. I didn't understand, from all the videos that I watch on this topic, wholesaling, very few people talk about contracts and what happens when you get the house, and what happens when you get the house under contract. What do you do next? And what if the end buyer has questions? I don't know the answers. And it was so daunting. And as in these situations, when you're new, you want to come across as being a professional and being someone who can get the job done, but you don't want to come across as being new and uninformed, and which sounding dumb basically. So I was in many cases over the last couple of weeks unsure, unclear, just didn't know what to do, how to respond, the correct verbiage. If my daughter, who's an agent, real estate agent up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, obviously experienced with contracts, experienced working with cash buyers, experienced working with making offers on properties, etc. She's done numerous transactions. If it weren't for her expertise, I don't know what I would have done. I would have had numerous Facebook posts and questions on the Bigger Pockets forum, because and I'll add one more thing in. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a real estate investing meeting in Houston. I met some contacts there. I would have been blowing everybody's phone up trying to figure out what to do next, how to word that, where do I find a contract, is this the right verbiage, because I had no idea what to do. She saved us. She saved me a lot of time. She added a lot of knowledge and value to this process. And because of like I said earlier, my daughter also has her LLC that she started with her for her real estate investment business. Nice and Home Investments, I think is what she's called it. We will then be able to work under our businesses LLCs and do these transactions. We'll both be on title and we'll both receive payment for our services. Or I'll be on title, receive payment for work, and I'll pay her for her services. So that worked out tremendously, and she's basically done the work of a transactional coordinator, which is a very vital role in this process when you're working by yourself. I didn't have anyone working with me throughout these processes, and I would have had to go out and find someone or figure it out for myself. So again, my daughter was able to get me through several situations, home runs, slam dunks. Kudos to her. We actually have 3 more deals on the table right now, and she's on vacation right now, and I'm just like on pins and needles until she gets back. But many more transactions in our future, many more happy transactions in our future, and I'm definitely going to give her a raise, because without her help we would not be able to get to this point at all. All right, guys, there's where I am. My goal of learning to wholesale in 30 days has now basically taken 60 days. Not too bad though. Not upset about that at all. I was a little bummed when my first deal backed out. Got over it. I'd be very bummed if this deal fell through as well. However, I would get over it as well, because like I said, we have 3 more deals on the back burner that are about to get moved to the front burner, and I'm really excited about what the future can hold for us in this in wholesaling, real estate investing world that we're about to jump into. And we haven't stopped our we haven't stopped working our notary businesses either, though. I actually just I think last week I had about 4 or 5 notary jobs. They were all property tax loans, and I had a general notary job last night. I have a truck on Turo, dropped it off with the guest this morning. I've been waking up, I'm a teacher. We're off this summer. I've been waking up around 10 o'clock each morning. At my first hour and a half or so, I'm working in the bed, looking for leads on my iPad, looking for leads on Facebook Marketplace. Just various ways of finding new opportunities for us to make some money and close on these deals. Yes, so that's where we are. If you have any comments, guys, drop a comment in the comments section here, and I definitely respond to you. If you have any questions, drop a question. I'll hit you back up. If you have any detailed questions or want, I always offer 30-minute free consultations to anybody that contacts me, time permitting. When I get real busy, may not be able to fit you in, but if you hit me up when I'm not overbooked, I will definitely get back with you guys and have a 30-minute conversation with you and answer all your questions about the mobile notary business, questions about wholesaling, questions about funding. People are starting to hit me up now. I'm on Facebook, y'all. Facebook people love to talk. They hit me back up, and providing any insight and value that I can, because if I help them, helping you helps me as well, because of the various things that I've learned, everything that I've actually learned, and the affiliate deals that I have, and the partnerships that I have all come from interacting with people on Facebook and YouTube and on Instagram, period. So when I say sharing is caring, sharing is caring, it actually does work. It actually does work. Okay, I have talked long. I need to get back to the ortho. I think actually I have flaxseed stuck in my braces. I've been drinking flaxseed shakes in the morning, and I need to take care of that. I'll get my water pick when I get home. I need to end this video. I will give you guys an update as these 2 houses under contract, as they move forward to the next step after we get past these inspections tomorrow. Hope the inspector gods are kind to us tomorrow morning. And afterwards, we will then be in the final phases of process. My buyer emailed me earlier asking a question about the contract. My daughter's gonna have to follow up on him, because I really don't know the answer to his question. And as he pursues his, forwards all this information to his lender to get his monies together to buy these 2 houses, it'll be a great day. I'll give you guys, like I said, an update of the next steps after the inspections take place, which in a few more iterations we should be clear to close. God bless us, God willing. God bless you as well in your businesses, guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, hit me up. I'd be happy to share with you any insights that I can. We'll talk again soon. It's the Country Notary. Have a great day.